The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need by Anthony Iannarino. Imagine this scene. A 17-year-old kid is standing in a packed arena at a rock concert. The lights are pulsing, guitars are wailing, and the lead singer of Whitesnake has thousands of people completely mesmerized. The young man stands there, absolutely transfixed. After the show ends, he immediately calls his older brother with this wild, unshakable certainty. "We have to start a rock and roll band," he says, "right now." And guess what? They actually did it. Their little band started tearing up the best clubs in Columbus, Ohio. Fueled by visions of sold-out stadiums and screaming fans, our young dreamer, now 21, packs everything up and moves to Los Angeles. You know, the place where rock legends are born. But here's the thing about dreams. They don't exactly cover your electric bill. So he takes a day job at a staffing company, recruiting people for warehouse positions. Picture this guy with hair flowing down to his waist, completely uninterested in anything remotely corporate. This is purely survival money, while he chases his destiny on stage. Then something unexpected happens. His new manager approaches him one day with this odd question: "What do salespeople do?" The young man gives some vague, half-baked answer, but the manager pushes harder. "No," he insists. "What do our salespeople do?" And suddenly, like a light bulb clicking on, the young man gets it. The three professional salespeople in the office, they weren't actually doing much of anything. Within 30 days, all three were gone. Here's where it gets interesting. The manager turns to this long-haired rocker and drops a bombshell he'd been watching. While the so-called professional salespeople were basically coasting, this kid, without even trying, was picking up the phone, calling companies, and actually winning new business. A natural talent. The manager slides a piece of paper across the desk and says, "I want you to be my new salesperson." The young man's immediate response? Absolutely not. To him, selling meant manipulating people, tricking them into buying stuff they didn't need. It felt dirty, dishonest. But the manager wasn't backing down. "Take the job," he said with a slight smile, "or you're fired." Faced with the humiliating prospect of slinking back home as a failed rock star, he reluctantly agrees. And what unfolded next completely transformed his entire life. That young man was Anthony Iannarino, and that reluctant yes became the first step on an extraordinary journey that would reveal the deepest truths about what it actually takes to succeed, not just in sales, but in life itself. Today, we're diving into his masterpiece, The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. And here's what I promise you. By the time we finish, you'll grasp a secret that most people never figure out. True success has nothing to do with the product you're selling, the company name on your business card, or the territory you've been assigned. It's about something much deeper, much more powerful. It's about who you consciously decide to become. So where should we start? If you asked 100 random people what makes someone great at sales, you'd get 100 different answers. Some would tell you it's about charisma, being smooth and charming. Others would insist it's about knowing every tiny detail about your product. And plenty would point to those aggressive closing techniques, you know, that whole always be closing thing from the movies. But Anthony Iannarino, after spending decades studying the absolute best performers in the field, reached a radically different conclusion. He realized that all those things people typically focus on, they're basically window dressing. Sure, they matter, but they're the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. The real foundation of success, he discovered, isn't about your circumstances at all. It's not about market conditions, your competition, or even your company. It's entirely about you. More precisely, it's about the person you deliberately build yourself into. The book breaks this down into two powerful sections: your mindset and your skill set. And listen, the sequence here is absolutely critical. Who you are must always, always come before what you do. Let's explore the mindset first. This is the inner game, the core beliefs and behaviors that separate the truly great from the merely good. And at the absolute heart of everything the cornerstone holding up the entire structure, is one beautifully simple, powerful concept: self-discipline. Iannarino calls it me management, which is basically the art of managing yourself. He shares this perfect story from early in his career that really brings it to life. After leaving his rock and roll dreams behind in Los Angeles, he rejoined his family's business back in Columbus. On his very first day, his new sales manager walks up, drops this massive stack of papers on his desk, and says, "These are our accounts. You are not to call on any of them." The message couldn't be clearer. Stay in your lane, kid. Don't compete with us. He was being completely shut out from day one. So what did he do? The very next morning, right at 8 o'clock, he closes his office door, cracks open the phone book, and starts calling every single company that wasn't on that forbidden list. He cold called all morning, grabbed lunch, then cold called all afternoon, day after day, week after week. While the other salespeople were hanging around the water cooler gossiping, he was dialing. Within 6 months, he'd become the top salesperson in the entire company. Within a year, his numbers were bigger than the rest of the team combined. Was he a smoother talker? Smarter? Not at all. He simply had the discipline to do the actual work. He was willing to do what was necessary, especially on the days when he absolutely didn't feel like it. That's the essence of self-discipline. It's the fundamental attribute of every successful person, period. It's your ability to make a promise to yourself and actually keep it. Whether that promise is waking up early, making those 10 extra calls, or properly preparing for a meeting instead of just winging it, discipline is what transforms good intentions into actual results. But here's the thing. Discipline by itself can start to feel like a never-ending grind. It needs fuel. And that fuel is the second element of the master mindset: optimism. Now, optimism isn't just about putting on a happy face and thinking positive thoughts. It's a deep, unshakable belief that your actions actually matter, and that, ultimately, things are going to work out. A pessimist looks at a list of 100 potential clients and thinks, they've probably all got suppliers they're perfectly happy with. They'll never switch. Why even bother calling? That thought process murders action before it can even take its first breath. An optimist looks at that exact same list and thinks, someone on this list is unhappy right now. Someone is being ignored or underserved. The very next call I make could be the one that changes everything. That belief is what gives you the courage to face rejection, that endless ocean of no that every salesperson must swim through, and to just keep dialing. It's the conviction that you genuinely can make a positive difference. All right. So once you've got that inner engine of discipline and optimism humming, you need to point it in the right direction. And this is where the book completely flips everything you thought you knew about sales upside down. The third element of the mindset isn't about winning deals or making money. It's about caring. I know this might sound a bit soft, maybe even naive, but it's actually a powerful strategic advantage. Iannarino shares this brilliant equation from his friend Charlie Green, who's an expert on trust. It goes like this: trust equals credibility, times reliability, times intimacy, all divided by self-orientation. Think carefully about that last part, divided by self-orientation. This means the more you're focused on yourself, your commission check, your quota, your needs, the less you're trusted. Every single time a salesperson says something like, "I really need this deal to hit my numbers," they're actively destroying trust. They're broadcasting loud and clear that their focus is on themselves, not on the client. True caring is the complete opposite. It's the genuine desire to understand other people and to help them achieve the outcomes they're after. It's about being sincerely invested in their success. And here's the kicker. You can't fake this, at least not for long. People have this sixth sense for your real intentions. They know whether you see them as a transaction or as an actual human being. Iannarino tells this incredibly powerful story about a client who was, let's just say, difficult to work with. She was tough, mean, and cursed, like an absolute sailor. Nobody wanted to deal with her. But Anthony was new to the territory and desperately needed the business, so he just kept showing up. Week after week, he endured the yelling and just listened. Then, one day, something shifted. The anger in her face suddenly melted into profound sadness. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," she confessed. "I work 14 hours a day here, and then I spend every night at the hospital with my husband. He has cancer." In that moment, she didn't need a salesperson pitching something, she needed a human being. And by simply being present and empathetic, by caring enough to actually listen, their entire relationship transformed. He learned that even when all things are unequal, when your product isn't the best or your price isn't the lowest, the relationship you build through genuine care can still win the day. Now here's an important distinction. Caring for others doesn't mean you're some kind of pushover. In fact, it fuels the next crucial element of the mindset, a healthy sense of competitiveness. Sales is almost always a zero-sum game, right? For you to win, your competitor has to lose. But Iannarino draws this critical distinction here. There's a whole spectrum of competition. On one end, you've got weak competition, where you're trying to win by tearing down your opponent or trash-talking their product. This is a losing strategy because your focus is on them, not on improving yourself. On the other end is hyper-competition, where winning at all costs leads you down these really dark, unethical paths. The sweet spot, he argues, is being a a strong competitor. A strong competitor's primary opponent is actually themselves. They're obsessed with becoming their absolute best version. They want to win so badly they can taste it, but they want to win by creating more value than anyone else can. They respect their opponents, but they're absolutely relentless in pursuing excellence. They play their own game, focusing on their unique strengths rather than trying to beat their competitors at the competitor's game. This drive to simultaneously win and serve leads us to one of the most important concepts in the entire book, resourcefulness. This is the ability to find a way forward, or if there isn't one, to create one. The author shares this fantastic image he once saw, a picture of a car's front wheel locked in one of those heavy metal parking boots. Except the car was gone. Just think about that for a second. The boot is specifically designed to make it impossible to remove that wheel. Yet somebody looked at that supposedly impossible problem and, through pure ingenuity, figured out how to detach the entire booted wheel from the car. That's resourcefulness in action. In sales, you're constantly running into impossible problems. A dream client who refuses to take your calls. A technical challenge that seems completely unsolvable. A budget that supposedly doesn't exist. The less resourceful person just gives up and moves on. The resourceful person, however, believes deep down that there's always a way. They use their imagination and creativity to connect ideas in novel ways, to solve problems that leave everyone else completely stumped. This quality connects directly to the next two mindset elements, initiative and persistence. Initiative is about taking action before it becomes necessary. It's being proactive instead of constantly reactive. Most salespeople just wait around. They wait for their phone to ring. They wait for marketing to toss them a lead. They wait for their client to become dissatisfied with whoever they're currently using. The truly great ones don't wait for anything. They initiate. They're constantly bringing fresh ideas to their clients, anticipating needs their clients don't even know they have yet, and showing them what's possible before they think to ask for it. Initiative is the cure for complacency, which is the single biggest reason why salespeople lose the clients they worked so incredibly hard to win. And then there's persistence. This is that bulldog-like quality of never ever giving up. And this is where we get one of the most memorable stories in the entire book. Anthony had this dream client he was absolutely determined to win over. He called the guy and left a voicemail. The next week, he called again and left another message. He did this every single week for 75 weeks. 75 voicemails, with 0 response. On week 76, the man finally picked up the phone. Clearly annoyed, he said, "You've called me 1,000,000 times." Without even a second's hesitation, Anthony replied, Actually, it's only 76. There was this pause on the other end of the line, and then the man said, "Well, if you come out right now, I'll give you an order." That's the raw power of persistence. It's not about being annoying or pushy. It's about being professionally persistent. The key is that every single touch, every call, every email has to provide some kind of genuine value, not just a desperate plea for a meeting. You persist because you truly believe you can help them, and you flat out refuse to let them miss out on that opportunity. Finally, the mindset gets rounded out by two more crucial elements: communication and accountability. Great communication isn't about being some smooth-talking wordsmith. It's about being a phenomenal listener. As Stephen Covey famously said, "Seek first to understand, then to be understood." The best salespeople are intensely curious about everything. They ask powerful, probing questions, not to set up their pitch, but to genuinely learn and understand. They listen so intently that the client feels truly heard, sometimes for the first time in their life. They listen for what's not being said, for the slight hesitation in someone's voice, for the real story hiding beneath the surface. And accountability is about owning the outcomes you sell. This is a total game changer. Most salespeople think they sell products or services. Wrong, you sell outcomes. As that old saying goes, people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill. They want a quarter-inch hole. Your job doesn't end when the contract gets signed or when the product gets delivered. It ends when the client actually gets the result, the hole, that you promised them. You own it completely. If something goes wrong, you don't blame your company or make excuses. You lead. You show up, take full responsibility, and work tirelessly until the problem is solved. When you combine all these mindset elements together, self-discipline, optimism, caring, competitiveness, resourcefulness, initiative, persistence, communication, and accountability, they create something incredibly powerful. Influence. Not the slick, manipulative kind you see in movies, but real, character-based influence. You become someone genuinely worth buying from because you become someone worth trusting. And only then, once that foundation is rock solid, can you truly master the skill sets. The second half of the book dives deep into the how, the specific abilities that bring the mindset to life in the real world. Let's touch on the most critical ones. First up, closing, but not in that old-school, high-pressure, sleazy way. Iannarino completely redefines closing as asking for and obtaining commitments throughout the entire sales process. There isn't just one dramatic close at the end. There are at least 10 critical commitments you need to gain along the way. It starts with the commitment for a bit of their time, then the commitment to explore the possibility of change, the commitment to collaborate on a solution, and so on, all the way to that final commitment to actually buy. Each step is a value exchange. You earn the right to ask for the next commitment by creating undeniable value in the current one. Next comes prospecting, which he beautifully reframes as, quote, opening relationships and creating opportunities. In today's insanely busy world, he argues, opening is the new closing. Getting a dream client's attention is harder than it's ever been. This requires a disciplined, systematic plan, not some sporadic, whenever you feel like it effort. It involves a campaign of touches, phone calls, emails, social media connections that consistently offer value before you ever ask for anything in return. Then there's the art of storytelling. This isn't about reciting your company's boring history or clicking through some soul-crushing slide deck. It's about painting a vivid vision of a better future for your client. And here's the crucial shift in perspective that changes everything. In the story you tell, you are not the hero. The client is the hero. Think of it like Star Wars. Your client is Luke Skywalker, facing some daunting, seemingly impossible challenge. You're not Luke in this story. You're Yoda, that wise guide who helps the hero unlock their hidden potential and defeat the dragon, threatening their world. This framework makes the entire conversation about their journey, not your stupid product. As the sales process deepens and gets more complex, you'll need even higher level skills. Diagnosing is the burning desire to truly understand the root cause of a problem, to find the ground truth beyond the obvious surface-level symptoms. This often means asking why multiple times, digging deeper and deeper until you uncover the real challenges, which are often political or cultural, not just technical or operational. You'll also need to master negotiating. The goal here is absolutely not to win at the other person's expense. It's about creating genuine win-win deals. This means you must be willing to walk away from a deal that's bad for you, but equally important, from one that's bad for your client. The focus should never be just on price alone, but on the total value being created for everyone involved. You must sharpen your value proposition before you ever sharpen your pencil on pricing. Finally, Iannarino introduces 3 master-level skills that truly separate the best from everyone else in today's incredibly complex business world. First is business acumen. He boldly declares that business acumen is the new sales acumen. It's no longer even remotely enough to just know your product inside and out. You must deeply understand how your client's entire business actually works. You need to be able to talk intelligently about strategy, finance, operations, and market trends. You must transform into a business person who happens to sell, not just a salesperson who knows some stuff. Second is change management. What you're really selling is change, and change is hard for everyone. People and organizations are naturally, powerfully resistant to it. Your job is to build consensus, to manage this complex web of stakeholders, supporters, doubters, and neutral parties, and guide them from the comfortable familiarity of the status quo to a better, but inherently uncertain, future. This requires real political skill and deep empathy. And that brings us to the final, and perhaps most profound, skill, leadership. Even without a formal title or corner office, you absolutely must lead. You're responsible for producing results with and through other people, your team, and your client's team. When problems inevitably arise, you don't point fingers or make excuses. You step up. You provide the vision, you clear the obstacles, and you take complete ownership of the outcome. Leadership, Iannarino insists, is not a position somebody gives you. It's a choice you make, every single day. By developing this full suite of 17 elements, the 9 parts of the mindset and the 8 essential skills, you stop being just another salesperson trying to hit quota. You become the one thing your dream client is desperately searching for, a true competitive advantage. You become the difference that makes all the difference. As we zoom out and look at the big picture of the only sales guide you'll ever need, what really jumps out is its profound humanity. In an industry that's often stereotyped by aggressive tactics and pure self-interest, Anthony Iannarino presents a radically different vision, that sales, at its highest level, is actually an act of genuine service. It's a noble profession dedicated to helping others achieve results they simply couldn't achieve on their own. The most powerful lesson for me personally is the unwavering focus on the internal game. The book's structure isn't some accident. Placing all the mindset chapters before the skill set chapters sends a crystal clear, powerful message. Who you are is infinitely more important than what you know how to do. You can learn every single closing technique in the world, but if you lack self-discipline, you'll never consistently apply them when it matters. You can craft the most brilliant, clever email ever written, but if it doesn't come from a place of genuine care, your audience will absolutely feel the hollowness behind those words. This is fundamentally a book about character first and technique second. It suggests that success isn't some distant destination you finally arrive at after years of struggle, but rather a state of being you cultivate consciously day in and day out. It's about building yourself into the kind of person who is disciplined, optimistic, resourceful, and accountable. When you become that person, influence is no longer a tactic you deploy strategically. It's a natural extension of who you actually are. So how can you start putting these profound ideas into actual practice right now, today? You don't have to master all 17 elements overnight or even this year. Just start with 1 or 2. First, try creating what he calls a discipline list. Forget about those huge, lofty, intimidating goals for a moment. Instead, pick just one area where you genuinely want to improve and identify the specific daily or weekly action that will get you there. If you want to get healthier, the goal is not lose 20 pounds by summer. The discipline is walk for 30 minutes every single day. Define that action clearly, schedule it like it's the most important appointment on your calendar, and then honor that commitment to yourself as if it were a meeting with the most important person in your life, because it is. Second, practice the art of exceptional listening. In your very next conversation, whether it's with a friend, a family member, or even a teacher, try this simple but powerful technique from the book. After they finish speaking, silently count to 4 before you respond. It's going to feel a little awkward at first, maybe even weird, but you'll be absolutely amazed at what happens in that silence. Often, the other person will add the most important and revealing piece of information, the thing they were initially holding back. You give them space to finish their complete thought, and in doing so, you learn to listen to truly understand, not just to formulate your reply. And finally, embrace this idea of professional persistence. Think of one person you really need to connect with, someone you've maybe reached out to once or twice, and then just gave up on. Instead of asking them for something, find a way to give them something genuinely valuable. Send them an article you honestly think they'd find interesting, or a link to a talk that made you think of them specifically. Do it with absolutely no expectation of a reply. Just plant a seed of value. It's a small shift in approach, but it fundamentally changes the dynamic from taking to giving, and it's the crucial first step in building a relationship that actually lasts. That was a summary of The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need by Anthony Iannarino. We've journeyed through the core ideas together today, but I need to be completely honest with you about something. Listening to a summary is like looking at a postcard of the Grand Canyon. You can see the general shape of it, sure, but you can't feel the massive scale, the wind on your face, or that sense of awe you get standing right on the edge. The real transformation happens when you fully immerse yourself in the actual book. It's in those quiet moments when a particular story, or even just a simple phrase, connects with your own experience in a way you never expected. This summary is your map, designed to show you the general terrain and help you decide if this journey is worth taking. If anything we've discussed today sparked something inside you, I really encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning tactics and techniques. It's an experience that can genuinely reframe how you see yourself, your work, and your potential to make a real difference in the world. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take just a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and makes sure you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.